Welcome back to the Mental Path Podcast. This is part 2 of our anxiety basics talk. Last week, we talked about how anxiety shows up. A physiological, environmental, or psychological cause can trigger it. We also discussed one way to explore your experience by using a 3-part anxiety check-in. If you missed that, be sure to check out that episode. Today, we'll focus on more skills to help you manage anxiety when it comes up. I'm Dr. Gretchen Gavero, a psychiatrist and therapist blending medical science, psychology, and personal development to build mental health toolkits. I'm sharing simple and practical skills to help you think and feel better. I truly believe everyone can learn to navigate anxiety with more ease. In managing anxiety or any negative emotions, there are 2 types of work to be done: what you do in the moment when it catches your attention, and the deeper work to resolve the root cause, which often takes more time, like processing done in therapy. Both scenarios require skills and practice. So, what do you do in the moment when anxiety pops up? Let's get to it right away. Learn to notice when anxiety arises. Do you see a change in your physical state, like your heart racing, trembling, or an upset stomach? Is your breathing more shallow? I know for me, when I get anxious, it feels like I've had way too much coffee. Do you notice changes in your behaviors, like avoiding a meeting, isolating yourself, or avoiding conversations? What do you notice starts to change first? Or do you notice a change in your mood or emotions, like feeling nervous, scared, or worried? From the last episode, we explained how anxiety serves as a signal from your nervous system as a stress response. The very first thing you must do is calm your nervous system and recenter. I know, easier said than done. But before leaning into your racing thoughts, you need to lower that adrenaline. It's hard to think clearly when you're stressed, you know. Here are 7 of my favorite ways to calm my nervous system. Number 1, breathe. I like taking deep breaths through my nose, but not too deep. We don't want you to get dizzy. And follow it with a long exhale through the mouth, at least twice as long. You can even purse your lips a bit. There are many types of breathing exercises, like box or square breathing, belly breathing. Choose one that works well for you. My 6-year-old daughter taught me something she learned at school. Imagine smelling a flower. That's your inhale. And then pretend you're blowing out birthday candles. This helps with the exhales when you're anxious. Number 2, take a sensory break. I love minimizing the sensory stimuli from my surroundings when I'm feeling anxious or stressed. One of the most relaxing things for me is sitting with my eyes closed in silence just for a few minutes. This helps me reset the fastest. What helps you the fastest? Number 3, engage your senses. You can use the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. This sounds like the opposite of a sensory break, but it's where you engage your senses to move your attention away from anxiety. You name 5 things you see around you, 4 things you can touch or feel with your hands, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste in your mouth. This exercise recruits different parts of the brain and diverts your attention from the anxious thought and into your senses. Number 4, walking or pacing. When you walk, your body uses up some of the extra energy that comes with anxiety, helping you calm down. It also diverts your attention from anxious thoughts to your feet, your steps, and your surroundings. You can take in this experience when you do mindful walking as a meditation. Remember, physical activity releases endorphins. These are natural chemicals in our nervous system that can lift your mood. Number 5, music. If my thoughts are too loud, I use music to give my brain something positive to focus on. Music quickly connects to your emotions and memories by activating the amygdala, which controls our emotions, and the hippocampus, another part of the brain, which is involved in memories. Music can also sync with the rhythms and tones of our emotions. When I feel down and tired, I listen to upbeat, empowering songs to feel energized, confident, and strong. Slow, gentle music can help calm me down when I'm too anxious or upset. Choose music with personal and emotional connections to remind you of the feeling you're trying to evoke or get to shift your emotions. Number 6, havening or gentle touch. Gently rubbing your arms, hands, or face while focusing on a positive thought or counting can also lower anxiety. The soothing stroke on touch enhances brain waves, similar to when you're asleep or relaxed. The touch, combined with focusing on counting or positive thoughts, distracts your mind away from anxiety. It can be as simple as hugging yourself and gently stroking your arms and saying, "I'm okay, I'm safe." I find that adding a bit of oil or essential oil to my hands can be helpful, adding a touch of aromatherapy. I love floral or minty scents. My brain has just associated them with calm and relaxation. Number 7, rescue comfort thoughts. I have a set of memories that I vividly imagine to truly capture my attention and move my energy away from the anxiety. One of my favorite ones is imagining my daughter touching my cheeks when she was around 3. This memory always brings a smile to my face and relaxes me a little. So, is that it? Well, not really. These strategies work for acute anxiety or in some panic situations. If the anxiety or panic is severe or debilitating, like if it's recurrent and significantly impacting the quality of your life, a temporary course of anxiety meds may help. This is something to address and talk about with your mental health provider, so make sure you do that before you decide on anything. At the same time, there is no substitute for self-care and a healthy lifestyle. Remember that underlying medical conditions can also trigger or worsen anxiety, so they have to be addressed and treated. Again, make sure that you're talking to your healthcare provider about these. There's just so much to consider when addressing anxiety. For the remaining time, let's focus on psychological triggers and the thoughts and emotions involved in anxiety. Anxiety is such a big topic that I'll be giving some examples, but know that this is not a complete list. I couldn't possibly cover it all in one episode. It's just enough to provide you with a better understanding of anxiety and some tools that might help you. I'll talk about 3 common anxiety triggers. Trigger number 1, fear. If you're afraid of failure or some negative outcome, think about what the opposite outcome and feeling could be. This can give your mind direction on what to focus on and motivate you to support aiming for that rather than focusing on thoughts that will grow anxiety. Remember, you choose where you focus your attention. For example, if the thought is, "I'm afraid of not succeeding in my goals," the opposite would be feeling excited about achieving what I'm aiming for. Just saying that already makes me feel more excited than worried. Trigger number 2, focusing on the worst case scenario. It's hard not to think about this, especially in high stakes situations, but focusing on this does not make things better. In fact, just like other similar fears, this is very limiting and it steals your courage. At least try to neutralize the anxiety by also thinking of the best case scenario. This is a great reframing technique that can provide just enough hope and empowerment to take action. When I applied to med school, I thought, what if I don't get in? Thank goodness I didn't give in to that anxious thought. In that process, I had to constantly remind myself, what if I actually get in this round? That definitely kept my motivation and hopes up. So, when you're preoccupied with the worst case scenario, also ask yourself, what's the most likely scenario? What's realistic? And finally, trigger number 3, the past. This is a very, very common trigger. The brain always looks at the present situation and compares it to your past experiences. It goes through your memories and your database of hurt, pain, and suffering to assess if it's safe to move forward and engage. It often does this unconsciously. Memories of experiences when we're hurt, disappointed, embarrassed, shamed, rejected, when we made a mistake, when we failed at something, all of these can trigger anxiety. Unresolved emotions from past experiences need to be addressed. You must update your associations with present experiences to be relevant, actionable, and in the right context. This means when you're stuck in the past, you are reacting to an old trigger and giving it more validity than it deserves. A new experience, as long as it's safe and healthy, is your chance to overcome anxiety-provoking moments. Avoiding situations over and over because they cause anxiety only increases your sensitivity to the triggers. Avoidance limits your ability to practice skills to manage anxiety. When we challenge and overcome these emotions, we train our brains to build the skills to handle situations. This builds resilience. So, there are strategies to use in the moment to calm yourself when anxiety arises. Then, there's the next level of work that needs to be done to truly address the root cause, which could be medical conditions, managing external situations like leaving a toxic relationship or workplace, or doing deep emotional work like resolving past hurt. What could this look like when you apply these skills in real life? Let's say I'm feeling anxious because of tensions in a relationship. I can tell you this happens to me just like anyone else. An example might be a misunderstanding with my husband causing an argument. I feel my anxiety rising in my body, my thoughts are starting to race, and automatic negative thinking is beginning to take over. I might think something like, he thinks I'm not good enough, or he doesn't appreciate me. Once I catch myself about to spiral further, I can take a few minutes to pause and reflect on these questions. But first, I'm going to take my deep breaths and feel my anxiety notch down just a bit, just enough to keep thinking clearly. Then I ask, okay, wait, is this thought 100% true? Do I really need to focus on this thought right now? What can help me right now? What do I need? What's the next helpful thought I can focus on? My goal at this moment is to move my brain's attention just an inch away from the anxious thought, just enough to interrupt this automatic spiral. The brain wants to know what to do when you're stressed about something, so you can stop worrying about it. It wants you to feel safe. Remember, anxiety is a stress signal that tells you there's a threat or danger ahead. When stressed, cortisol is released, signaling to your brain that you need to do something. This is when you use your favorite strategy to calm your nervous system down enough to be clear enough to create a plan. Even if the plan is, I'll think about this in an hour, or I'll ask for help, I'll bring it to therapy, talk to my friend about it, or I'll journal this out. That's still a plan. That's much better than stewing in a deep spiral of negative, anxious thoughts. If I notice that this is a pattern, like in my example where I repeatedly think I'm not appreciated or I'm not good enough, then I have to decide if I need to do deeper work about this. Is the pattern worth exploring? Is this tied to the past? If so, do I need to resolve my relationship with this memory and assign new meaning to my present experience? Is it tied to future worries? Do I need to create a plan or strategy to mitigate risks and set myself up for success? What's the next immediate step to improve my situation? Again, identify what you need at the moment and address something, even something small. This is just one example of the many ways anxiety can show up and how to approach it. In some anxiety scenarios like OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, there are specific steps that can be very helpful, like exposure and response prevention therapy. This involves an incremental exposure to triggers that give the brain tiny moments of practice to tolerate the distress by applying coping skills, giving the brain a chance to build resilience and lessen the anxious response. Finally, the next important step is to practice, and practice consistently. When you're anxious, tell yourself, okay, it's time to practice. Practice consistently to build the habit of regulating your nervous system and managing anxious thoughts. This just makes you more resilient. Now, my question for you today is, which of these skills stand out to you? Which of these skills will you add to your mental health toolkit? I know it's hard to think when you're very anxious. Trust me, I know this. So, list your favorite ways to calm your nervous system. Practice them even when you're not worried, like your deep, calming breathing exercises. Do them in the grocery line or at a meeting. I usually practice these things when I'm driving. Practicing familiarizes your brain with the skills, making it easier to remember how to do them when you actually need to use them. This creates mental fluidity. In your list, also write down your favorite reflection questions to help you manage anxious thoughts and calm down. When anxiety hits in the moment, all you need to remember to do is look at your list, and you can follow your favorite techniques. Your brain will thank you for it. I call mine my rescue list. Wow, this was a skill-packed episode. We've completed 10 shows of the Mental Path podcast. This season, we learned a lot about how to address your physiology, psychology, and relationship with your surroundings to take care of your mental health. From analyzing your day to identifying your mental health needs to building motivation, managing self-talk. We learned about burnout, sadness, depression, and anxiety. I shared many simple strategies to help you feel more in control of your thoughts and emotions. I can't wait to see you next season. We'll dive into managing self-criticism, building confidence and self-esteem, and finding fulfillment. We'll also look at other common mental health conditions, how they relate to medical conditions, even nutrition, and ways to take care of your one and only body to improve your mental and emotional well-being. My husband Carl, the other half of the Mental Path team, and I are so grateful for your support. Our goal is to empower you to take care of your mental health. You can really do a lot of things to help yourself. See you in March.